What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors steps onto a talk show only to face a host determined to push him to the edge? Today, we're diving into one of the most tense television moments ever captured live, where Joy Behar's relentless questioning pushed Robert De Niro to his absolute breaking point. Before we jump in, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below telling us about the most awkward TV moment you've ever witnessed. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. The morning began like any other at the View studios. Robert De Niro arrived early, quietly waiting in the green room while makeup artists prepped him for a routine promotional appearance for his latest film. Known for his meticulous preparation and professionalism, De Niro had reviewed his talking points with his publicist just minutes before being called to the stage. When he walked onto the familiar set, the audience erupted in applause. De Niro waved politely and took his seat across from the panel of hosts. Joy Behar, seated at the far end, barely glanced up from her notes, a subtle but ominous hint of what was about to unfold. "Welcome back to The View," Joy announced, her voice carrying that unmistakable sharp edge long-time viewers knew well. "We're here with Academy Award winner Robert De Niro, who has a new movie out that I'm sure someone, somewhere, is excited about." De Niro raised an eyebrow at the backhanded greeting, shifting slightly in his chair. "Well, thank you for having me," he replied carefully, his calm, measured voice betraying the first flicker of surprise. "Oh, don't thank us yet," Joy shot back, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Let's talk about this new film of yours. Another tough guy role, I assume. Seems like you've been playing the same character for, 40 years now?" The studio went silent. Even the other hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and the rest, exchanged uneasy glances. This was no ordinary celebrity chat. Leaning forward, De Niro clasped his hands. "Actually, Joy, if you had seen the film, you'd know it's quite different from anything I've done recently. It's a character study about a man navigating loss and redemption." "Oh, I see," Joy replied, shuffling through her notes theatrically. "So, it's a departure from your usual angry man yelling at people routine. How refreshing." The audience was dead silent, the tension practically crackling through the studio. De Niro's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "You might be confusing me with some of the characters I've played. There's actually a lot of range in my work if you look beyond the surface." Joy let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Range? Come on, Robert. You do one of two things in every movie: mumble incomprehensibly or explode in rage, sometimes both in the same scene." Whoopi attempted to interject, sensing the conversation was spiraling. "Joy, maybe we should—" "No, let me finish." Joy cut her off, laser focused on De Niro. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You've been coasting on your reputation for years. When was the last time you actually challenged yourself as an actor?" De Niro's face flushed red, his legendary intensity now fully engaged. "Joy, I don't know what your problem is with me personally, but this is supposed to be about the film. Maybe we could actually discuss that instead of your personal opinions about my career." "My problem?" Joy's voice rose an octave. "My problem is actors like you come on this show, expecting us to fawn over you just because you made a few good movies decades ago. This isn't entertainment tonight, Robert. We ask real questions here." The cameras captured every micro-expression on De Niro's face as he processed her words. Even his publicist in the wings looked like she was about to faint. "Real questions," De Niro repeated slowly, his voice dropping to that low, dangerous register that had intimidated countless actors over the years. "You call personal attacks real questions? You haven't asked me one thing about the movie, the director, or the story we're trying to tell. You're more interested in taking cheap shots." Joy leaned back, clearly reveling in the reaction she had provoked. "Oh, please," Joy snapped, leaning forward. "Don't act like you're above criticism. You're an actor, not a deity, though I'm sure some people treat you like one. This is unbelievable." De Niro muttered, shaking his head. "I've been doing interviews for 50 years, and I've never encountered anything like this." "Well, maybe that's the problem," Joy shot back. "Maybe you're so used to softball questions and flattery that you can't handle a real conversation." The other hosts visibly squirmed, exchanging uneasy glances and looking to their producers. Sarah Haynes tried to redirect the tension. Robert, why don't you tell us about working with your co-stars on this film? Actually, Sarah, I'd like to know something else. Joy interrupted, eyes locked on Darrow. Robert, do you think your reputation for being difficult on set affects the performances of actors around you? Darrow's eyes widened in disbelief. Difficult to work with? Who told you that? Oh, come on. Joy waved dismissively. Everyone in Hollywood knows the stories, the tantrums, the demands, the way you treat crew when things don't go your way. That's completely false, Darrow said, his voice rising with controlled intensity. You're spreading rumors and gossip. I've worked with the same people for decades because they know who I really am. Joy shuffled her notes, clearly ready for this moment. Really? Because I hear you made an assistant cry just last week on set. The accusation hung in the air like a bomb. Darrow stared at her, disbelief and anger flickering across his face. You have it on good authority from who? What assistant? Joy smirked, interrupting. I protect my sources, but the story was detailed enough. This is character assassination, Darrow said flatly. You're making this up. Whoopi finally spoke. Joy, maybe we should. No, Whoopi. Darrow interrupted, raising a hand. I want to hear this story. Since you're so confident in your sources, why don't you share the details? Joy's confident front faltered for a fraction of a second. Well, I don't think it's appropriate to get into specifics on air. Of course you don't, Darrow said, leaning back, bitter smile forming. Because there are no specifics. There is no incident. There is no assistant. You're just throwing mud and hoping something sticks. The studio tension was electric. Cameras zoomed in on every flicker of emotion. Joy's face flushed red, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. Just because I won't reveal my source doesn't mean it didn't happen, Robert. Maybe you're so used to people being afraid of you that you've forgotten how you actually behave. Afraid of me? Darrow's voice turned dangerous. The only thing I'm afraid of right now is how low this show has sunk. This used to be a respectable program. Spare me the lecture about respect. Joy fired back. Coming from someone who glorifies violence and toxic masculinity, how many of your movies have the solution to every problem being a punch or a gun? Darrow blinked, incredulous. Are you seriously criticizing me for playing characters? Do you understand what acting is? Should I hold you accountable for every stupid thing you've said on this show over the years? Stupid? Joy's voice pitched higher. Now who's being disrespectful? You started this, Darrow replied coldly. You invited me here under false pretenses and spent the entire time trying to humiliate me. And yes, some of the things you've said today have been incredibly stupid. The other hosts frantically glanced at producers off camera. Whoopi tried again. Maybe we should? No, Joy cut her off sharply. I'm not done, Robert. Since you want to talk about respect, let's discuss your recent political comments. Don't you think it's hypocritical for someone who makes violent movies to lecture people about civility in society? Darrow's eyes narrowed, the simmering storm ready to erupt. What does that even mean? Darrow asked, voice low but edged with disbelief. First, I'm difficult to work with. Then I made someone cry. Now, I'm a hypocrite. What's next? I'm just pointing out contradictions in your public persona, Joy said, a self-satisfied smile playing across her face. You can't have it both ways. You can't profit from violence in entertainment and then act morally superior in real life. Morally superior. Darrow laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Lighty, you've spent the last 10 minutes trying to destroy my reputation on live television, based on gossip and lies. Who's acting morally superior here? Joy shuffled her cards, but her hands were trembling slightly now. I'm asking legitimate questions that other entertainment journalists are too afraid to ask. No, you're not, Darrow said firmly. You're conducting a hit job. There's a difference between journalism and whatever this is. Sarhanes attempted once more to steer the conversation back. Robert, can we talk about your process as an actor? How do you prepare for, actually, Sarah? Darrow said, turning to her gratefully. I'd love to answer that, but I don't think Joy wants to hear about acting. She seems far more interested in character assassination than actual characters. Joy was far from finished. Don't try to play the victim here, Robert. You're a grown man who's been in this business for 50 years. If you can't handle tough questions, Maybe you shouldn't do interviews. Tell questions. Darrow's voice rose for the first time. You call making up stories about me making assistants cry a tough question. Insulting my entire body of work a tough question. These aren't questions, they're attacks. Everything I'm asking is fair game? Joy insisted. You're a public figure. Your behavior, your choices, your impact on society, they're all open for discussion. My behavior. Darrow leaned forward, eyes blazing. Joy. My behavior right now is remarkably restrained considering what you've put me through in the last 15 minutes. You've accused me of being difficult, of making people cry, of being hypocritical, all without a shred of evidence, and now you question my right to defend myself? The audience was silent, riveted. Some viewers reached for their remotes in shock, others were glued to the screen, unable to look away. I have every right to ask these questions, Joy said defiantly. This is your show, Darrow repeated incredulously. Last I checked, this was called The View, not the Joy Behar Show. And even if it were, that doesn't give you the right to ambush guests with lies and personal attacks. Joy's composure was cracking. I don't have to sit here and be lectured about doing my job. I don't have to be slandered on national television. But here we are. Darrow shot back, his voice cold and controlled. Whoopi tried one final intervention. Look, let's just... No. Joy cut her off, voice trembling with anger. I'm tired of being told to back down while asking the questions that need to be asked. Robert Darrow thinks he can intimidate me, but I'm not backing down. Darrow stared at her, disbelief and pity flickering across his face. Intimidate you? Joy, I haven't raised my voice. I haven't threatened you. I haven't even sworn, despite having every reason to. How exactly am I intimidating you? Joy gestured wildly. Your whole demeanor, the way you're looking at me, the way you're talking, it's meant to make me feel small. I'm defending myself against your baseless accusations, Darrow said evenly. If that makes me feel small, she snapped, maybe you should examine why you made those accusations in the first place. Joy's eyes flashed with anger. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. I don't need career advice from someone who hasn't made a decent movie in 20 years. The words landed like a slap. Darrow went perfectly still, face cycling through disbelief, outrage, and finally, cold fury. 20 years, Joy. Do you actually know anything about my recent work, or are you just throwing out numbers? I know enough, Joy said, but the confidence had drained from her voice. No, you don't, Darrow said quietly, the weight of his presence filling the studio. His voice was deadly calm. You haven't done any research. You haven't watched my recent films. You don't know anything about my career, my process, or my characters. You came in here with a predetermined agenda to tear me down, and you've been making things up as you go along. Joy tried to interrupt, but Darrow held up his hand. I'm talking now. You've had your turn spreading lies and rumors. Now, it's my turn to respond. The studio fell so silent that the hum of the camera equipment was all anyone could hear. Every person in the room held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. You want to know about intimidation, Joy? This entire interview has been an attempt to intimidate me. You've tried to bully me with false accusations, personal attacks, and professional insults. The difference is, I won't be bullied. Joy's face flushed crimson. I was doing my job, she stammered. No, Darrow said firmly. Your job is to interview guests about their projects, their work. Your job is not to assassinate their character based on gossip and personal grudges. Personal grudges. Joy's voice cracked. I don't have a personal vendetta against you. Darrow studied her for a long moment. Then what is this? Because it sure feels personal. Did I offend you? Turned down an invitation. Refused to do the show before? What have I done to deserve this treatment? Joy opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. For the first time in the interview, she seemed genuinely at a loss for words. The silence stretched on. She opened and closed her mouth several times, but no words came. The other hosts exchanged panicked glances as their colleague appeared to unravel on live television. Finally, Joy whispered, I don't know what you're talking about. Darrow leaned forward, voice gentle but firm. Joy, something is clearly bothering you about me personally. This level of hostility doesn't come from nowhere. What is it? There's nothing personal, Joy said, her voice shaking. I just think celebrities need to be held accountable. Accountable for what? Darrow pressed. You haven't mentioned anything I've actually done wrong. You've made vague accusations about my personality, criticized movies you haven't seen, and invented incidents that never happened. What exactly are you holding me accountable for? Joy looked around desperately at her co-hosts, but they stared back with expressions ranging from confusion to horror. Whoopi finally spoke. Joy, maybe we should. I can handle this myself. Joy snapped. Can you? Darrow asked quietly. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're having some kind of personal crisis and taking it out on me. Joy's face went pale, then red again.
How dare you suggest that? You don't know anything about me.
You're right, Darrow acknowledged. I don't know you personally, but I know what I'm seeing, and this isn't professional journalism. It's someone lashing out.
I am not lashing out, Joy shouted. I'm doing my job.
No, Joy, Darrow said calmly but sadly. You're embarrassing yourself and everyone else on this set. Look around. Look at your colleagues' faces. Look at the crew. Everyone here knows this isn't normal. For the first time, Joy actually glanced around the studio. The camera operators stared with concern, the producers in the wings looked mortified, and her fellow hosts avoided eye contact entirely. Joy started to speak, then stopped. A flicker of realization passed across her features. Darrow pressed gently. Joy, I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but whatever it is, I'm not the enemy here. I'm just an actor trying to promote a movie. I didn't come here to hurt you or embarrass you. Joy's hands trembled visibly as she gripped her note cards. You think you're so superior, don't you? You think you're better than all of us? No, Joy. I don't, Darrow said softly, his calm presence filling the room. I think I'm just a guy who showed up to work today and got blindsided by someone clearly dealing with issues they need to work through. Darrow said calmly. The word issues seemed to strike a nerve. Joy's composure shattered completely. Issues. You want to talk about issues? You want to know what my issue is? The studio held its collective breath. Even the producers froze, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let this play out. My issue, Joy continued, voice breaking, is that people like you get to waltz through life being celebrated for doing the bare minimum, while the rest of us fight for every scrap of respect. Darrow blinked in surprise. Joy, what are you talking about? You've been coasting for years, Joy said, tears now visible in her eyes. Everyone knows it. Your last 10 movies have been garbage, but people still treat you like a god because of a couple of good films 40 years ago. Even if that were true, Darrow said carefully, what does that have to do with how you treated me today? Joy wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup. Because it's not fair. It's not fair that mediocre men get passes, while women have to prove themselves every single day. The pieces were starting to come together for Darrow. Joy, are you saying you attacked me today because you think I represent some kind of unfair system? I'm saying someone needs to call out the emperor for having no clothes, Joy said, though her voice now lacked conviction. That's not what this was. Whoopi interjected gently. This was personal attacks and made-up stories. Joy turned on Whoopi sharply. Don't you start, too, Whoopi? I see how you treat male guests differently than female guests. We all coddle these men. Excuse me? Whoopi raised her eyebrows. Darrow held up his hand. Ladies, please. Joy, I understand your frustration with inequality in the entertainment industry. That's a legitimate concern. But what you did to me today wasn't activism. It was cruelty. Cruelty, Joy laughed bitterly. You want to talk about cruelty? Try being a woman in this business for 30 years. I'm sure that's been difficult, Darrow said sincerely. But Joy, I'm not responsible for every injustice you've faced. I'm just one person trying to do my job, same as you. Joy stared at him for a long moment, something in her expression beginning to crumble. She started, then stopped. Joy, Darrow said gently, I think you owe the audience an apology, and honestly, you owe me one too. The suggestion seemed to snap Joy back to reality. She looked around the studio, taking in the faces of everyone watching. The weight of what she'd done hit her all at once. Joy began, then stood abruptly. I can't do this, she said. Joy, wait, Whoopi called, but Joy was already walking off the set, her microphone pack trailing behind her. The studio erupted in chaos. Producers rushed onto the set, while the remaining hosts scrambled to regain composure. Darrow sat stunned, absorbing the sudden turn of events. Is she okay? Should someone check on her? He asked Whoopi. The producers will handle it, she assured him. Robert, I'm so sorry about all of this. That was completely unprofessional, she added. Darrow shook his head. She's clearly going through something. I just hope she gets the help she needs. When the cameras rolled again after the commercial break, Joy's chair sat empty. The remaining hosts conducted a normal, respectful interview about Darrow's film, but the damage was already done. Clips of the meltdown were already going viral, flooding social media within hours. As the show wrapped, Darrow stood, shaking hands with the hosts. Thank you for trying to keep things professional, he said, walking off the set. He couldn't shake a mix of anger and sadness. He had come to promote his work, and instead witnessed someone's very public breakdown. The incident would be dissected for weeks by critics and armchair psychologists alike. But for Darrow, it was a stark reminder. Professionalism can evaporate in an instant when personal vendettas and unchecked emotions take over. What did you think of this incredible meltdown? Have you ever seen a talk show host lose it this badly on live television? Subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think really triggered Joy Behar to snap. Because there's definitely more to this story than meets the eye.